Most people won't know this until it's too late. But if you've been watching this channel for a while, you already know that prices don't go down on their own. And right now, there's a window, a real one, where buying certain pantry staples could save your family hundreds of dollars over the next year. I've been doing this kind of research for a long time. And I want to be clear, this isn't about fear. This isn't about stockpiling your garage like the world is ending. This is about being smart. This is about knowing what the supply chain is doing before the grocery store shelves catch up. Today, I'm going over 15 pantry foods you'll wish you had stocked before summer hits. Some of these will surprise you. Some of them you walk past every single week without a second thought. And one of them, I'll give you a hint, it's somewhere around number 7, is going to make you stop and say, I had no idea. So stay with me. Subscribe if you're new here. I do this every week, and the people who watch regularly are consistently ahead of the curve. Let's get into it. Item number 1. White rice. Let me start with the one that seems too obvious to mention, because that's exactly why most people ignore it. White rice has been quietly climbing in price for 2 years running. And it's not just one region or one brand. It's across the board. Production shortfalls in major exporting countries combined with higher shipping costs have pushed the base cost up in ways that retailers are only now starting to pass along to shoppers. I checked prices at 3 different stores last month: Walmart, Costco, and a regional grocery chain. And a 25-pound bag of long-grain white rice had gone up between 18 and 22% compared to the same time 2 years ago. That's not a small jump. What makes rice especially worth stocking is its shelf life. Properly stored in a sealed container, away from moisture and light, white rice can last up to 25 to 30 years. I put several bags into food-grade buckets with oxygen absorbers and set them in a cool closet. Done. That's years of a calorie-dense, versatile staple essentially locked in at today's price. The practical move here is simple. Buy a 25-pound bag today. If Costco membership is accessible to you, their Kirkland brand bags are consistently one of the better values. Don't wait for a sale. At this point, any price you pay today is likely lower than what you'd pay in 6 months. You don't want to be the person reaching for the last bag on the shelf, wondering why it costs $5 more than you expected. Item No. 2. Canned wild-caught salmon. This one genuinely surprised me when I started looking into it. Most people reach for canned tuna, and I'll get to that. But canned salmon is often overlooked. And right now, it represents one of the best protein values on the shelf. Wild-caught salmon, packed in water, gives you a full serving of omega-3 fatty acids, high-quality protein, and real food that keeps for years. The pricing gap between canned salmon and canned tuna has been narrowing. Wild salmon populations in Alaska, which supply most of the domestic canned market, had a difficult harvest season, and processors are working through limited inventory. Several industry reports from fishing trade publications have flagged tighter supply through at least mid-year. When I looked this up myself, I found that even store-brand canned salmon at Walmart had gone up noticeably. But here's the thing, it's still affordable now, and the jump coming could be significant if supply stays tight. Buy 12 to 24 cans. Rotate them into your meals. Salmon cakes, salmon pasta, salmon mixed with a little mayo and crackers. It's versatile, it's filling, and your family will eat it. I started keeping a case under the kitchen sink, and I rotate through them every few months. You'll barely notice you're doing it until you realize you've saved real money. This is the kind of move that feels small now and pays off later. Chatur. Item number 3. Dried lentils. I want to talk about something that rarely shows up on these kinds of lists, and that's exactly why I'm putting it at number 3. Dried lentils are perhaps the most underrated pantry item in America. A 1-pound bag of lentils costs around $1.50 at most stores. That pound of lentils will expand when cooked to fill a large pot, enough for multiple meals for a family of 4. The protein content rivals meat. The fiber content rivals most vegetables. And unlike beans, lentils don't even need to be soaked overnight. What's happening with lentils right now is that global demand has been rising steadily. India and several other major import markets have been buying more. Domestic production in North America, concentrated in the Pacific Northwest and Canadian prairie regions, has been somewhat inconsistent due to weather patterns. Agricultural commodity analysts have noted tighter margins for lentil producers, which historically precedes price increases at retail. I'll be honest, I didn't eat lentils growing up. I only started buying them because I was trying to stretch our grocery budget a couple of years ago. Now they're a permanent fixture. Red lentils make an incredible soup. Green lentils work great with rice and some spices. Brown lentils are the workhorses of stew. Buy 10 to 15 pounds. Store them in sealed glass jars or food-grade containers. They'll last 3 to 5 years without any problem. At today's prices, you're locking in one of the cheapest calories per dollar available in any grocery store in the country. Smart eating doesn't have to be complicated. This is about as simple as it gets. Chapter's item number 4, olive oil. This one you may have already noticed, but I want to give you the full picture. Olive oil prices have gone up dramatically over the past 2 years, and the reason is specific. Drought conditions across the Mediterranean, particularly in Spain and Italy, which together produce the majority of the world's olive oil. The 2023 and 2024 harvests were significantly below historical averages. We are still feeling the effects of that. Consumer prices at major retailers reflect this. A standard 32-ounce bottle of extra virgin olive oil that might have cost $7 or $8 2 years ago now regularly sits at $11 to $15 in many markets. Some specialty brands have gone even higher. I looked into this myself because I use olive oil almost daily. What I found is that the recovery timeline for olive groves is not fast. Olive trees take years to recover from stress. This means the supply situation is not a one-season problem. It's structural, and it's likely to persist for at least another year or two. The practical move is to buy 2 or 3 large containers. Kirkland brand at Costco offers some of the best value available right now on a per-ounce basis. Store sealed bottles in a cool, dark place, and they'll stay good for 18 to 24 months easily. Don't wait for prices to come back down. Based on everything I've read, that's not happening quickly. Buy now and protect your cooking budget. Jacques, item number 5, canned tomatoes. I know what you're thinking. Canned tomatoes? Really? Hear me out. Canned tomatoes are the backbone of more meals than almost any other single ingredient. Pasta sauce, chili, soups, curries, shakshuka, braised meats. Once you start looking at how many of your family's meals depend on canned tomatoes in some form, you realize just how important this item is. And here's what's happening. Tomato processing costs have been rising. Energy, labor, and packaging all factor in, and processors have been absorbing those increases as long as they could. That window appears to be closing. Major brands have already signaled modest price increases to retailers, and private label options are expected to follow. I started buying cases of 28-ounce crushed tomatoes and whole peeled tomatoes from restaurant supply stores and Costco. The per-unit price drops significantly when you buy by the case, and canned tomatoes have a shelf life of 3 to 5 years, often longer if stored in stable conditions. A case of 24 cans of crushed tomatoes will run you somewhere between $18 and $25, depending on where you buy. That same case, purchased one at a time from a regular grocery store, will cost $35 to $40. The math is just obvious. Stock 20 to 30 cans. Use them regularly. Rotate in fresh ones. Your food budget will thank you. Narbas item number 6, rolled oats. Rolled oats are one of those things that most people buy one canister at a time and never think much about. That's about to change. Oat prices have been creeping upward, driven by both agricultural input costs, seed, fertilizer, fuel for equipment, and increased demand as more consumers have shifted toward whole grain breakfast options. The oat market is not experiencing a dramatic crisis, but a slow, steady pressure that compounds over time. What most people don't realize is that oats store extremely well. A properly sealed container of rolled oats, kept cool and dry, will stay good for 2 to 5 years without any treatment at all. Add oxygen absorbers to a sealed mylar bag, and that timeline extends even further. I buy the large Quaker Oats containers and transfer them into large glass jars. I keep them on a pantry shelf. We eat oatmeal several mornings a week, and I always bake with oats. I've probably spent less on breakfast for my household this year than most people spend in a month. Buy 5 to 10 pounds of rolled oats now. Store them properly. That's months of breakfasts locked in at today's price. It sounds modest. But if you add up the cost of 5 people eating breakfast every morning, the savings get real very quickly. This is the kind of boring, unsexy move that actually changes your budget. Jakten, item number 7, coconut oil. Here's the one I teased at the beginning. Number 7, and I genuinely was not expecting this when I started looking into it. Coconut oil has developed a significant supply issue that most mainstream outlets haven't fully covered yet. The Philippines and Indonesia, which together account for the vast majority of global coconut production, have been experiencing prolonged dry conditions and aging palm stock. Coconut palms take years to mature and begin producing. The trees that were planted during the last major replanting cycle are aging out, and there hasn't been sufficient new planting to replace them at scale. What this means practically is that coconut oil supply is expected to tighten further over the next 1 to 3 years. Wholesale prices have already reflected this. Retail prices are beginning to catch up. Industry analysts tracking vegetable oil markets have flagged coconut specifically as the commodity most likely to see significant retail price increases in the near term. When I checked prices at 3 different retailers, Walmart, Sprouts, and Target, the same sized container of refined coconut oil had jumped between 25 and 35% compared to what I remembered paying 18 months ago. That was a jolt. Coconut oil has a naturally long shelf life, typically 1 to 2 years for refined and up to 2 years for virgin, though many food storage experts report it remaining stable well beyond that in cool conditions. It's useful for cooking, baking, and as a substitute for butter in countless recipes. Some households also use it as a skin and hair product, which means a larger container serves multiple purposes. Buy 2 to 4 large jars now. Refined coconut oil is more shelf-stable and less expensive than virgin. Store at room temperature or slightly below. This is one where acting before the news cycle catches up will genuinely save you money. I told you this one was going to stop you. And now you know. The Russ item. Number 8. All-purpose flour is the foundation of home cooking, and it's been on a slow upward trajectory that most shoppers haven't fully registered. Wheat prices have been volatile due to geopolitical disruptions in key export regions, shifting weather patterns in major growing belts, and sustained increases in energy and transportation costs. Flour mills have been passing those increases downstream gradually, which means consumers are seeing incremental price hikes that feel small in isolation but add up significantly over time. I spoke with someone who works in food distribution, not a supplier, just someone in logistics, and they mentioned that the cost pressures they're seeing on processed grain products aren't expected to ease significantly this year. The good news is that all-purpose flour stores well. In its original bag, it lasts 6 to 8 months at room temperature. Transferred to an airtight container, it lasts a year or more. Stored in a sealed mylar bag with oxygen absorbers in a cool, dark location, white flour can last 5 years or longer. Buy 25 to 50 pounds if you have the storage space. Divide it across multiple sealed containers. Rotate it into your baking. This is the kind of move that makes every loaf of bread, every batch of pancakes, and every pie crust you make for the next year or two a little cheaper than it would otherwise be. This is how families who are genuinely good with money think about food costs. They buy ahead when it makes sense. Taktur, item number 9. Dry beans, black, pinto, and kidney. Not one type, all three. And here's why it matters that you get variety. Dry beans are a cornerstone of home cooking across almost every food culture in America. Black beans for rice dishes and soups, pinto beans for chili and refried beans, kidney beans for slow-cooked stews and classic three-bean salads. Each has a slightly different texture and flavour profile, which means having all three gives you real meal flexibility. Dry bean prices have been rising moderately, following the broader trend of legume commodities. But the more immediate concern is that many stores are reducing the number of SKUs they carry in the dry beans section to manage shelf space. I've noticed this at multiple stores in my area. Fewer options, smaller package sizes, and incrementally higher prices. That's a pattern worth paying attention to. A pound of dry black beans at Walmart currently runs around $1.20 to $1.50. That pound, cooked, yields roughly 6 cups of beans, enough for several meals. The math is extraordinary compared to canned beans and certainly compared to restaurant equivalents. Buy 5 pounds of each variety. Store them in airtight containers. Dry beans will last 5 to 10 years in proper storage without losing their nutritional value or flavour. Cook a large batch on Sundays and refrigerate or freeze portions for the week. This single habit, repeated consistently, is one of the most impactful things you can do for your food budget. You don't need to change the way you eat. You just need to be smarter about the form you buy ingredients in. Shakar item. Number 10. Canned tuna. Canned tuna is a staple for tens of millions of American households, and the pricing pressure on it right now is real. Global tuna fishing has been constrained by stricter catch limits designed to protect stock levels, by higher fuel costs for fishing vessels, and by ongoing logistics pressures in the Pacific. The largest processors, major brands whose products line every grocery store in the country, have been quietly adjusting prices upward. In some cases, the adjustment comes in the form of slightly smaller cans at the same price point. In others, it's a straightforward price increase. I've been tracking this one for about a year. What started as a 5 to 8% increase has gradually compounded. Compared to prices 2 years ago, a standard 5-ounce can of light tuna in water is now running meaningfully higher across most retailers. The good news, canned tuna has a shelf life of 3 to 5 years, often longer. It's one of the easiest, most versatile proteins in any pantry. Tuna melts, tuna pasta, tuna with crackers, and a bit of hot sauce. Cheap, fast, satisfying. Buy 48 to 72 cans. At Costco, you can often find cases of chunk-light tuna at prices that are still reasonable. Stack them in a closet or under a shelf. Rotate as you eat them. This is the simplest possible hedge against the protein price increases that are coming. Don't let the ordinary nature of canned tuna fool you. Ordinary items you use every week are exactly where budget savings matter most. Shakar item number 11. Apple cider vinegar. This one catches people off guard. But stick with me. Apple cider vinegar has quietly become one of the most versatile items in a well-stocked pantry. Beyond its well-known culinary uses, salad dressings, marinades, pickling, bread baking, it also functions as a natural preservative, a cleaning agent, and a household remedy for a range of minor issues. Many households have begun keeping larger quantities on hand for multiple purposes. Production of apple cider vinegar is tied directly to apple harvests, and apple farming has been under meaningful stress. Frost events in key growing regions, particularly in the Midwest and Pacific Northwest, reduced apple output in recent seasons. Combined with higher production and processing costs, the cost of bulk cider vinegar to manufacturers has climbed, and that pressure is reaching retail shelves. When I looked this up, after noticing the price jump at my local grocery store, I found that the increase was consistent across brands and retailers. It wasn't a local fluke. Bragg, the most recognizable brand in the category, had gone up noticeably at every store I checked. Buy a gallon jug or two if your store carries them. Gallon containers offer significantly better value per ounce than the smaller bottles. Properly sealed, apple cider vinegar has an indefinite shelf life. The acidity prevents spoilage. It will keep for years. There is essentially no risk of buying too much. This is one of those items where knowing what's coming means you're set while everyone else scrambles. To Gus. Item number 12. Honey. Honey is simple. Pure, raw, unfiltered honey has a shelf life that is functionally unlimited. Archaeologists have found edible honey in Egyptian tombs thousands of years old. You will not outlive a properly sealed jar of honey. That's the storage case. Now here's the pricing case. Honey production has been under pressure from multiple directions. Colony collapse disorder, pesticide exposure, and habitat loss have reduced domestic bee populations in ways that directly affect honey yield. Weather events disrupt foraging seasons. The result is that American honey producers have been operating with thinner margins and lower yields for years, while imported honey, particularly from South America and Eastern Europe, fills the gap at varying quality levels. Consumer-grade honey prices at retail have risen steadily. Raw, unfiltered domestic honey, the kind sold at farmers' markets or through natural food retailers, has seen even sharper increases as the genuine article becomes harder to source at scale. I buy a 5-pound container or a half-gallon jar when I can find good pricing, usually at Costco or a local farm store. I use honey in tea, in baking, in marinades, and occasionally as a cold remedy. A large jar lasts months in my household, and I know I'm paying today's price for something that will still be good 5 or 10 years from now. Buy 2 to 4 large containers. The economics are simple. The shelf life makes it essentially risk-free. And it's one of the few truly sweet things in your pantry that works as hard as any savory staple. Item number 13. Ghee is clarified butter. If you haven't worked with it, it's time to start. And the window to buy it before prices climb further is narrow. Here's why ghee matters as a pantry item. Regular butter must be refrigerated and goes off within weeks or a couple of months once opened. Ghee, because the milk solids and water have been removed, can be stored at room temperature for 6 to 12 months sealed, and much longer when refrigerated. This makes it uniquely suited to pantry-style stockpiling in a way that regular butter simply isn't. Dairy prices have been volatile. Butter prices in particular have been elevated. And since ghee is a processed dairy product, it follows those movements. The labour and energy costs involved in producing ghee add to the base cost of dairy. Ghee prices have risen significantly over the past 2 years, with quality brands commanding prices that, while higher, still represent real value when you consider the shelf stability and cooking performance. I started using ghee regularly after a family member who cooks South Asian food introduced me to it. The smoke point is much higher than butter, which means it handles high heat cooking without burning. The flavour is rich and slightly nutty. A small amount goes a long way. Buy 2 to 4 jars from a brand you trust. Costco occasionally carries large containers at competitive prices, and Amazon carries quality options if you watch for deals. Store sealed jars in a cool, dark cabinet. This is a real long-term pantry investment that makes your cooking better and your budget more predictable. Shakfir. Item number 14. Salt, kosher and iodized. I want to address the one item on this list that might make you laugh, right up until you go to the store and look at the price tag. Salt has gone up. Not in the same dramatic fashion as some other items, but it has gone up. And more importantly, salt is the one pantry item with no substitute and essentially no upper limit on shelf life. Stored properly, salt will outlast you and everyone you know. Kosher salt, the workhorse of serious home cooks, has seen price increases tied to mining, processing, and packaging cost inflation. Morton and Diamond Crystal, the 2 dominant brands in the kosher salt market, have both raised prices. Iodized table salt has followed similar patterns, though it remains exceptionally affordable in large quantities. The practical advice here is less about dramatic stockpiling and more about buying smart. A large box of kosher salt. The 3-pound or 5-pound format, bought now at current prices, will serve your kitchen for a year or more. Several of those boxes, stored in a cool, dry location, are good indefinitely. Don't let the low per unit cost make you underestimate the value of stocking up. When you multiply daily cooking use across a year, salt is something you never want to run short on and never want to pay more for than you have to. Buy a 5-pound box of kosher salt and a large canister of iodized table salt. This costs you maybe $8 total, and that $8 might be the single most efficient pantry investment you make this year. Taco. Item. Number 15. Freeze-dried fruits and vegetables. I saved this one for last because it's the one most people haven't thought about yet, but are about to start seeing everywhere. Freeze-dried produce has historically been associated with camping food and emergency preparedness. That perception is changing rapidly. The technology has improved, the products are increasingly available through mainstream retailers like Walmart and Target, and the value proposition for everyday pantry use is genuinely compelling. Freeze-dried strawberries, blueberries, peas, corn, and bell peppers retain between 85 and 97% of their nutritional content. The shelf life, when properly sealed, ranges from 10 to 25 years depending on the product and storage conditions. They rehydrate in minutes with water or in cooking liquid. The weight is a fraction of fresh or even canned, which makes storage easy. What's happening in the food supply chain is relevant here. Fresh produce prices have been among the most volatile category in grocery spending. Shrinkflation in canned vegetables is ongoing. Freeze-dried alternatives represent a way to lock in both price and availability for produce that might otherwise be expensive, seasonal, or unavailable. I first bought freeze-dried produce to add to my emergency kit. Then I started using it in everyday cooking, tossing freeze-dried corn into chili, blending freeze-dried strawberries into smoothies, mixing freeze-dried vegetables into rice dishes. It's genuinely useful, not just theoretical. Look for options at Walmart, Target, or online through retailers like Thrive Life or ReadyWise. Buy a variety, 2 or 3 types of fruit and 2 or 3 vegetables. Start small if you're new to it. You'll find uses quickly. And 5 years from now, when the prices on fresh produce have continued their upward march, you'll be glad you established this habit early. This is what being ahead of the curve actually looks like. Here's what I want you to take away from everything we covered today. The pattern behind all 15 of these items is the same. Costs in production, energy, transportation, and labor are not coming down. Supply chains that were disrupted in recent years have not fully normalized. And retail prices, which tend to lag wholesale movements by several months, are still catching up in most of these categories. The families who are thriving financially in this environment are not the ones earning the most. They're the ones who spotted these patterns 6 months ago and acted. They bought rice when it was still reasonable. They stocked coconut oil before the shortage hit retail shelves. They filled their pantry with dry beans and canned salmon and ghee, and now they have breathing room that most of their neighbors don't. That can be you. It starts with action, and the action doesn't have to be dramatic. It's a few extra items each shopping trip. A bag of lentils here, a case of canned tuna there, a large container of honey. Over time, that pantry becomes a genuine financial buffer. Most people will see these prices in 6 months and wonder when it happened. You won't be wondering. You'll know exactly when it happened, because you were watching, and you did something about it. If you found this useful, please subscribe. I do this every week, and the channel is built for people who want to stay ahead of what's coming. Leave a comment below and let me know which item on this list surprised you most. I read every single one. And if you have a family member or a friend who's been feeling the squeeze at the grocery store, share this with them. The more people who know, the better off we all are. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself and take care of your family. That's what this is all about.